Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session of accelerating your use of public cloud. As an introduction, my name is Mischa. I'm one of the Azure Specialists here at Softcat. In this session today, we're going to be exploring the relationship between a valued Softcat customer and a CSP reseller such as Softcat. So joining me on stage, we have Gareth Kinsella from Kalibrate. I will hand over to you to give an introduction.
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Gareth. I'm the IT Ops Director from Kalibrate. You have to excuse my voice. I sound like I've been at Glastonbury like Darren, but really I'm just getting over a bug, so excuse me. So Kalibrate's a tech company. We're a data-centric company. Effectively, we are PE-owned and about 60 million revenue per year. Global business, about 330 employees, thereabouts. And on a very aggressive growth strategy for effectively world domination, if you speak to our CEO. We do a couple of different things. So we, historically, and still to this day, a very large part of our revenue stream is around fuel pricing. So petrol stations around the world need to manage the price at pump. And these companies that run these stations have strategies around what they want to do, whether they want to be cheapest in market, whether you go to a supermarket, or whether you want to be a more premium brand, those sorts of things. Our software products allow the customers to effectively manage those prices at their headquarters at a country level or at a more regional level and manage the price day on day. So you look at the UK, the prices change a couple of times a week. You look at somewhere like Germany, they have like 20 price changes per day on a fuel station, and they have market wars with each other, and our software products allow them to do that in a fully integrated manner. And then the other part of our business, and a much more maturing and our future state, is around location intelligence. So anywhere that is going to be physically built that has a significant capital expenditure, petrol station, drive-throughs, quick convenience stores, pharmacies, anything that requires a decent intelligence around its placement to make sure it can maximize its return, you want to take a data-centric approach to delivering that. And that's exactly what we do through a variety of data processing and manipulation on a per-client basis, as well as a software product that sits in the front of that. So that's Kalibrate. And my role within that then is both from an operational perspective for the teams that look after all of our cloud estate, our technical support services and all our product deployments. So we're quite a small company. As I said, we're on a growth journey. So when I joined 4 years ago, about 90 employees, and as I say, with sort of 330 or thereabouts now. And we've got probably what I would class as an abnormally large expenditure from an Azure perspective. So we spend about $5 million a year on Azure for 300 people companies, a little bit obscure. And that's because of the range of services that we deliver for our clients. And obviously Softcat is our primary CSP for that.
Perfect. I think you covered off the vast majority of that first question there, but could you just give a little bit more context to some of the services that you do provide in the markets that you operate in?
Yeah, sure. So our customers want to know about their locations. And so we will, on a per engagement basis, either at a single site level or at a regional level or whatever it might be, do effectively market studies on them. We'll pull in data from a variety of different means, from customers themselves, from third-party data sets that we'll procure as part of the study, and public domain information, whether it's about demographic or traffic or movement data in relation to mobile phone movements and those sorts of things, and through a load of analytics and data modeling using things like Alteryx and a lot of SQL Server and a variety of different other technologies, will effectively create models that we'll then publish into our software product and then provide access to our clients to allow them to go and see that insight on their locations, whether it's the proposed locations that they want to build or their existing estates in relation to their competitors. Perfect.
And then what were some of the issues that Kalibrate were facing prior to collaborating with Softcat?
Sure, yeah. So so having an Azure footprint is not new in terms of the relationship with Softcat. So we've been with Softcat from an Azure perspective, CSP-wise, for 20 months, something like that. We were a previous CSP prior to that. And with that previous CSP, they helped us on our journey from moving from co-locations that they ran and a whole managed service through to the Softcat arrangement we've got now, which is a more of a kind of certainly not a managed service space. Some of the things that we were finding that we were keen to find with a new CSP was around easier to do business with. I've got experience with various different CSPs that can be quite difficult to do, and Softcat had that kind of more sort of smaller feel about it, even though you're a massive organization, that was much better to do business with and you felt much more comfortable. We wanted to focus a lot on cost optimization. So having such a large footprint and the 30% or whatever it was statistic that was out there, there was a lot of opportunities for us to save costs from a reserved instance perspective, from a hybrid benefits, and generally from a range of spaces in that. Expertise as well. So as I said, we're a small business. You guys probably know as well, the marketplace is really difficult to recruit for people, and it's just getting worse and worse. It's just very competitive. And so having a fairly small team, there's about 50 strong in my organisation of engineers and support persons and a variety of other disciplines. We want to be able to have access to all the expertise that's sort of best in class out there. But we don't necessarily need all of those people on a full-time basis. So we do different projects, having someone like Softcat aligned to us to allow us to leverage the expertise that you guys have got internally. And conversely as well, the third parties that you have within your network. So some of the things that are not necessarily your bag. Alteryx is a perfect example. Some of the hardcore SQL Server stuff that we do and the big data pieces around signups and things like that, they're just not within your direct remit of skills. But you have partners that you can drag in and put in front of us and become a more cohesive arrangement. So yeah, those things. And then as well, on top of that, there's a lot of value to be sweated out of Microsoft directly. We've got relationships with Microsoft, but obviously you guys have as well. And the spend that we put through you means that you're able to help us sort of leverage additional benefits through Microsoft, whether it's funded POCs or a variety of other things that are just hard to get to Microsoft if you don't quite know the right people to talk to.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I guess following on from that then, how did partnering with Softcat solve some of those issues that you're experiencing?
Yeah, sure. So we went through our cost optimization piece, reservations. It was all at the front end of the process. And as the talk upstairs was talking to, then getting into a management space of that is quite challenging. But working with Softcat on how we do that once those are in play has been good and very fruitful. The only challenge then is your budget set at a certain level, and you've got to make sure you've got to keep your finger on the button and they don't start to slip. Otherwise, it starts to become quite a challenge for you. Having access for ad hoc needs. So one of our teams was exploring a lot of Power BI embedded and wanting to bake that into parts of our product. Not something we've done previously internally. Being able to reach out to you guys and things like that have been really useful. Just on not on a kind of a PS basis, but just as an aligned resource group. And then a variety of projects that we've done with you guys as well. So we've been very acquisitional as a business. So through those acquisitions, you guys will probably know you inherit a variety of different states of internal IT and external IT, as the case may be. So some of the companies we've bought have come with colos. We've gone through one colo migration with you guys already and augmented the existing people we've got internally. And then we're just going through a second piece with you now for a different company. And those things have gone very well and been very useful to not only have additional expertise, but in some cases broadening out the capacity as well. Because again, having that high growth and being owned by PE, for anyone that's worked in private equity companies, they keep you lean, and it's all about the numbers. So smaller team, you're always at the tipping point of having the right resources. So reaching out to you guys has been great for that.
Yeah, so following on from the resource point then, what resources were presented to Kalibrate to enable that full completion of those projects?
Yeah, okay. So I guess it'll be all the stuff that you would expect, right? So for one or two of the arrangements, we've had project management engagement as well from Softcap perspective, and they presented that and taken ownership of the overall governance piece rather than being resourced by Kalibrate. Azure specialists like yourselves and Brian and the team, architects as well have been brought in. And the third parties that we talked about before, and those have been really hugely beneficial to kind of have that kind of cohesive team offering. We did an AVD project not that long ago, maybe 6 months ago, where because we do so much data manipulation and the backbone behind our software products that's facing our clients is all about data modeling, collating large amounts of data. It's not quite big data levels, but it is, it's terabytes and terabytes of stuff with mass storage, of which it's got PII in it and GDPR considerations and all sorts of complexity. We're really focused at the moment on delivering a secure data processing platform that is away from our corporate network, still back office functions, but is then wrapped in a VDI layer using Azure Virtual Desktop so that you have a very secure space that you can get into a lot of data governance and control away from the day-to-day sort of corporate network. And so putting those kinds of people onto the projects has been great for that.
Yeah, brilliant. And then I guess, again, this follows on, but how did creating that union with Softcat complement your current IT team and strategies?
Yeah, I guess it's a bit more of the same. So, Kalibrate, as we continue to grow, and we're really in a great place from almost a market-defining space where year on year, the growth opportunities in companies wanting to do more location intelligence-based decisions, data-centric ones rather than, I think I'll build a load of supermarkets in these areas because it seems right and there's people around and whatever, right? They're making much more objective decisions based on data, and because we're in that space, that's great. Now, if you then combine that with the fact that we do the fuel pricing thing, which has been our bread and butter from when we were conceived as a company decades ago, and then you look at the way the EV, electric vehicles, and the direction that the developed world especially is going, gone will be the days of you or I driving to what is the cheapest petrol station in the local area on your way to work or whatever, and just getting cheap fuel and just driving off. Some people might like, the fact it's got a Costas or a Subway or whatever, and they might be happy to pay a premium for fuel, but not me. I want to be in and out. But as soon as I've got an electric vehicle, I'm going to have to spend some time in this location. I don't want it to be I don't want it to be a rough gig with no amenities. I want to be able to, work and those sorts of things. So our company continues to grow at a continual sort of growth trajectory, and we're expecting 4 or 5 times growth within the next few years as well on that continued path. And again, like I said, we maintain to be a lean internal organization, and so our IT strategy is one around acquisitional and then and managing those things. Convergence then of the product sets that we inherit as we acquire those companies that sit within complementary sort of software products to the one that we already have to kind of and consolidate those through our development teams into a unified location intelligent sort of product. And in doing that, we can modernize on that and make it much less about IaaS and make it much more about SaaS and native Azure services. And on the pricing side of the business, which I should say is our kind of, I won't say it's legacy, but it's where we were born out of originally, but is a huge revenue stream of our company. That's a single tenant deployment, and we've got 400 or 500 VMs just running that across, ECUS and ECUS2, Europe and Australia. That's a massive sprawl to deal with operationally, let alone from cost controls and business ops and all that sort of side of things. So as we modernize those things through the development efforts and the architectural path that we're taking for that, we are converging those into more native Azure technologies, and again, then being able to leverage, the expertise at Softcat on an ad hoc basis to be able to understand, and get over some of the sort of the bumps that we've got is hugely beneficial to us. So those things are probably the ones that jump out for me.
Yeah, perfect. And I guess to flip things on its head then, were there any unexpected challenges that came up that both Softcat and Kalibrate had to react to? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so so a couple of things come to mind, I suppose. From kind of smaller examples are around challenges we've had around engagements that we've done together from a formal project basis. So we did one co-location migration, which was, broadly speaking, a kind of lift and shift. There was no architectural re-engineering from a software product perspective. It had its constraints. It needed to be classic IaaS. We wanted to ring fence it with its own subscription and networking, and wrap our kind of operational tooling that we've already got established over the top. We were doing all that whilst integrating companies at those companies at a kind of an employee and organizational level internally as well as a variety of other projects that we were doing at the same time. So we had a lot to do, and we've always got a lot to do, and that's the best place to be, right? Rather than at the other end of the shoe. And so we embarked on this scope of works together for this, set about project plans, and it was only when we got to a certain point did we realise from both parties say that we weren't really aligned on roles and responsibilities and the scope and who was taking on what pieces of the pie. And so there were some challenges around that to get through in terms of realigning expectation, making sure the right resources become available on the Kalibrate side, and sort of sharing it in the way that sits the expertise of, the people that know it best. And that, if it was a straight up, customer supply relationship on a one-off, it'll be hugely more painful. But because it's been much more of a partnership based, not over just the last sort of 20 months or so, but the years that we've procured, 365 and infra and devices and the like from you guys. And to be fair, all the goodwill that you've shown to us over the time that we've done the CSP piece, it worked out really well, and it actually kind of built a better relationship with us. The other things that we found are challenging when using you guys are our failings rather than yours. Fortunately for you guys, anyway. And it's always dangerous, isn't it, when they ask a customer to come and sit on the stage here and actually speak some kind of truth. Us having our own, we've got our own standards, we've got our own definitions. As I said, we've gone on the migration journey to cloud already prior to Softcat through a previous CSP. That had been a very aggressive migration, because for anyone that's done it, the cost controls that you need to put in place. And as soon as you start this thing, you're spending money in Azure, but you're also, broadly speaking, spending exactly the same money in the co-locations or the managed services or whatever they are. And it's very hard to squeeze out the cost that you're trying to get rid of incrementally until you've got to the end point. It's more of a case of you migrate over and then you can rid that cost that you're going with. So effectively parallel run. So whilst we have standards and definition within our estate, we have definitely some lacking documentation around those. It's more tacit knowledge and definitions because you can see it in place. So when we start some of these engagements, the latest one we're doing at the moment of one of our latest acquisitions and effectively a two-phase migration of their co-location to Azure, being able to empower you guys with clarity and documentation around these are our standards, this is how we do security, this is how we do management groups, this is our IAM, this is our resource naming convention, this is our networking topology, security tool, all of the above and more. It can become a bit challenging. So again, that's why it's really good, because we get into discovery conversations and work through it together. And you guys have been great on that. That's the kind of the ease of doing business bit, which was the whole point that we selected Softcat, and is the reason we're still with you, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, there you go. That's brilliant.
And you didn't pay me for that either.
Well, there you go.
That was a nice one.
We've absolutely flown through these questions. So thanks, Gareth. I'll open up to the floor if anyone has anything they'd like to ask Gareth. I take no questions as a good sign that we've been quite informative there. Well, thank you very much, guys. Obviously, that was a quick session, but just FYI, we have a break now after this. The next session is at 3:30. I believe it's in the banquet hall, but it might be in here, so correct me if I'm wrong. And again, I'm sure you're sick of hearing of Slido, but if you do have any questions, then please do upload them and we can get back to you on those. But thank you very much, and thank you, Gareth.